Well, welcome everybody. I cannot see everyone. I think I can only see the first group. So, uh, welcome to everyone that's joining us. And I believe we have people from all over. We have a lot of people from Denmark. And I was recently in Denmark and had such a wonderful time there. And we have people from Spain, Gibraltar, the UK, South Africa, US, all over the world. So welcome everybody. I'm so delighted to be starting this series with Chloe because we have done several projects together. This is in fact the third thing that we're doing together, but the idea of this is to not only educate, but to also create a community of people that are, or practitioners, professional practitioners that are interested in developing their knowledge in longevity and lifestyle medicine, because that's what we're doing. And what we want to do with this is we want to bring this knowledge to the community and share together the ways in which we can develop protocols that really work for our patients and our clients. So this is where we're coming from. There are people here today that are simply enthusiasts, very well-informed, educated individuals that work with myself or work with Chloe that would like to know more. It's suitable for you as well. But as a community, we can bring so much to help each other. So I'm going to start now with the presentation
Yes.
and go through some initial details about me. And then we're going to continue and look at all the different aspects of longevity, of biohacking and hormones. So these are just some brief bits of information focusing very much on natural medicine, functional medicine. I was very fortunate to be trained by the most wonderful functional medicine professor. For 7 years, I was working under her, and her name is Dr. Anne Lenoy from Belgium. And from there, I developed this deep interest in research on longevity and anti-aging, and came eventually to bioidentical hormones. And what I found there, although my background is a master's in nutrition and also in exercise physiology, I found that when we came to natural medicine, it was very much about what happens after age 35 when our hormones change. What are we going to do about that? Because that will determine the longevity we will have. And then from there, we created the Gen X Health natural medicine supplement brand, which what I found is a lot of my fellow doctors and nutritionists were always looking for the highest quality natural medicines to recommend for their patients. So we created a company that does that. And then, of course, the new idea of peptides was born a few years ago, where suddenly out of the research, the medical research, was coming this amazing information about peptides, which are simply groups of amino acids being able to be combined and synthesized in the lab and made available for the treatment of our patients. And developing further, like Chloe, I also have my education, which is functional health practitioner education, licensed, registered, and recognized by the Complementary Medical Association, which is an association of over 10,000 practitioners around the world. So a little bit now about my career on the next slide. This is just a little bit of what I'm doing right now. So I have obviously the consultancy. I work together with patients and practitioners. So I join practitioners as a specialist to work with their patients, and I also work with my own patients. And of course, I train other functional health practitioners to work with their patients. The well-being is our company, which is in Gibraltar, which owns the brands of the Gen X. So Gen X Natural Health, we'll talk about that a bit later. And we also have a company called Advanced Biosolutions Group, where we do very advanced diagnostics into the gut, into the hormones, same as Chloe does, but also looking at things like organic acid testing, DNA advanced testing, and also other new tests that are coming up into the scientific marketplace. I also head up in the clinic in Gibraltar, the Nutrition and Functional Medicine Unit. I have around 45 books you can check on Amazon, and also created a foundation for self-empowerment and was a lecturer for the European Commission. So just some general info, but I'd like to move now to the actual subject at hand, because here we are with what do we do to help health and longevity? We have to have a plan. We have to have a way, a method of working with the whole subject. And you divide it really into four areas. So it's very much, if you look on the right, the lifestyle and the behavior. If we don't get that right, then nothing else is going to work. We need to get that right first. So that's the nutrition, the exercise, the stress management. These are all important things. Then we move to the medical side, which is very much about how we diagnose. We've got to get the right diagnostics. And we also look at ways to reverse age using all types of treatments and natural medicines. The mental health side is vital. I've just been speaking today with a doctor about the influence of cortisol. When cortisol rises in the body, what happens is that stress takes over and that messes up everything. So we have to get our mental health and our stress resilience under management. And finally, we have to also personalize the protocols for the patients, and we have to create a prevention strategy, because it's so much easier to prevent than to have to treat the problem when it's happening there and you're in the emergency in hospital. So that means that we really need to think before it actually happens, and that's what we as practitioners are doing. So we're going to move on now and look at this in a little more detail. And I love to show this longevity pyramid, because this also gives you an idea of the importance base level of longevity that you need to have. So at level 1, you've got all these lifestyle interventions. And as you can see, it's the biggest part. It's the foundation of everything that we're doing for longevity. Then we can start into optimization. So that means the right natural medicine supplements, the hormones, the peptides, things like oxygen therapy, red light, and then we move on into what we call interventions. So these are medical type interventions, not too serious though, things like plasmapheresis, where they are cleaning the blood and redoing the blood. And what we find with that is that brings in things like ozone therapy, exosome therapy, plasmapheresis, which has become very popular. And then we move on to what we call the next generation. And we start to talk about stem cell therapy, gene editing, CRISPR is another form of genetic development. And we get into a lot more sophisticated, advanced levels of anti-aging, if you like. But we need to start at level 1. We do move to level 2. Level 3 I use quite a lot, and you will too when I tell you more about it. And level 4 is where it goes eventually. So it's always good to keep this in mind, this pyramid. So moving on to the next slide.
I also think that's a wonderful view into the things we are working on. So we want to make, I don't know what the right name is in English, but after education, you are a practitioner, you're working with clients, you're good at using the Dutch test, you're good at using the hormone laboratory test. But then we need to work on level 4. So can we have, upgrade? So that's something we are working on to give to you people who's interested in that.
Yes, I mean stem cell therapy, we already developed some products that you can actually use for the scalp, and we have a biostem natural medicine that actually also works on promoting the and strengthening stem cells in the body. So there's a natural intervention there. And then you can go towards transplanting stem cells, which is a bit more complicated, and you have to examine the benefits and the disadvantages too. So there's natural stem cells and stem cells that are implanted. So once we get to those areas, it's so good to keep up with education and see what's available, because a lot of your patients will ask you. Now, what is this word biohacking? Biohacking is this big word. And somebody was saying to me yesterday, and I quite like what she had to say. She said, isn't it really bioattuning? because we are attuning our biology. Hacking is kind of quite an aggressive word, cutting through. So bio-attuning, I think, actually sounds a lot better, but everybody has now adopted this word biohacking. And we see that it involves several areas. So you can biohack your genetics, how you control your bloods, your physical activity, sleep hygiene, what kind of natural medicine supplements you take, meditation, detox. The genetic testing is, I think, for me, one of the biggest biohacks because it's advanced so much now that you can genetically test via your DNA strands things like why it is that you would put on weight, why it is that you don't manufacture the hormones you need, why it is that you react so badly to stress, why your skin is constantly a problem, why you are constantly in inflammation. To give you an idea, through the blood we have one main test and a few sub tests. The main test for blood is something called C-reactive protein, and then you have a few other smaller ones that give you some indication. But in genetic testing you have 7 really important markers that will tell you about what's happening with the inflammation of your body. So when we do genetic testing, we dig much deeper. And by digging deeper, we are bio-attuning. We are finding out why things are happening in our bodies and our minds that we would never know otherwise. So again, it's so important with us to understand the genetic testing. And this is something that myself and Chloe work with together. We have discussed more and more of the DNA testing, and we will provide for all the practitioners opportunities to DNA test and provide you with an expert opinion on the results for your patients. So there's a lot of opportunity there for us to give you more detail. So let's move on to the next slide. It has also a little bit more on what biohacking is itself. And here that we come again, I feel that the diagnostics are the most important first step. Because it's like if you a lot of patients or people will call me from all over the world saying, what do you recommend for this problem or that problem or this health issue? And it's very difficult to answer when you don't have all the facts. So the issue is that if you go to the doctor, that you spend 10 minutes and then they give you a pill. That's not really getting to the bottom of what's going on in your own body with your own hormones, with your other aspects like the DNA or your gut. So without the diagnostics, we're not in the strongest position to be able to advise and give the right supplements, the right hormones, and everything else. So we've got to do that first. So I really want to emphasize that. Then we can start to look at the natural medicines and the hormones. And of course, we can look at the peptides a bit later. But I always start with natural supplements and the bioidentical hormones because those are step 1 in the treatment package. We've got to use those supplements to rebalance the body, the hormones to rebalance the hormones. Then obviously the diet is vital. So if you don't have an anti-inflammatory diet, then the whole thing is pointless because you're putting something in your mouth 3 to 5 times a day that's going to just negate all the good work that you do. Weight training, strength training, muscle training. Muscle is the organ of longevity. So most important thing is the strength training. And then we start to optimize with the peptide therapy. So peptide therapy is becoming the most important natural medicine of the future. And we're going to look at several a bit later on. So moving on, and these are just some ideas for you to know about. I'm sure you know about them already, but it's just to re-emphasize them. Intermittent fasting, I believe, is one of the most important biohacks because that introduces something called autophagy, and then we are renewing ourselves, we are reversing age. The cold showers, we know about the hormesis of cold therapy. So cold therapy produces a good stress called hormesis, and that's always good. Breathing, respiration, it's vital. Wim Hof has a wonderful breathing technique. And then you need to look at your overall personalized natural medicine supplements. So those are really important ones there. Now, what we see here is again a few items there. The regenerative side of things is, I think, really important. So, somebody, a patient from Germany, called me yesterday and he said, "Well, my mother had a stroke and she's doing not too bad, but what do we do next?" And often, when we have a health condition, whatever it is, it can be really a serious one for the elderly. It can even be something that's happened at a younger age. But we need to regenerate. We need to, on a cellular basis, go into why it happened, but also create a longevity protocol that is aimed at regenerating on a cellular level. So we really need to be doing that. Above all the other things as well. And then we're going to see real progress. So regeneration protocols are also the protocols of the future and ones that myself and Chloe are going to be working on. Right, so hormone depletion. This is such a big subject. I'm just going to change my view because I'm missing a little bit of
And
the
if you
whole
have any
thing.
questions, please ask. You can raise your hand or you can just write it in the comment.
Yeah,
And if it's in Danish, I can
you can translate.
answer.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So now we have three different levels of hormone depletion in the body, and each of them affect these three different sets of organs. So you've got the brain and all the organs of the brain, you've got the reproductive system, and then the body. And this is what we forget, and this is for men and women. So I know it's predominantly we have women here, but men also feature in this. They are just as likely to have problems in their own areas. And things like the brain, what I find is least recognized is the brain depletion, because people go to the doctor with depression and what do they get? An antidepressant. Or they have a poor memory and they think, oh, I'm just getting older. Or they have anxiety and then they're prescribed an anti-anxiety medicine. So this is really not helping. The problem is a hormonal depletion, and we have to examine the hormones more closely to find out what's going on. The reproductive system, again, for both men and women, creates all kinds of issues. Even, how many patients haven't I met over the years that say, oh, well, as I've gotten older, my libido is zero. But it's not that your libido is zero, it's that your hormones to encourage your libido are zero. So this is why it's so important to do things about these conditions that are going to improve the hormones. And it doesn't happen overnight. So you're not going to have a situation where, okay, the next day I feel brilliant. It takes 12 months to re-establish and regenerate even the hormones. Then we have the body itself. Those heat and night sweats are awful. The insomnia is one of the worst because that affects sleep hygiene. And then we've got all the other things. Muscle loss is 2% a year. Weight is the biggest issue as well, post-menopause. But even for men, they develop a belly, which is basically full of visceral fat and all kinds of cortisol, very dangerous for the cardiovascular system. And then the muscle aches are another huge one. So all of these can be attributed to the hormone depletion. Now, what are the benefits? And this is just at a glance. It's nice to have this because if you are consulting with your patient or if you're just looking at, right, what is all the benefits? And then you can at least say so many when you look at these. For men, in fact, I would say that at least half of our patients now worldwide are men, maybe even more. So all these benefits are incredible. So especially for men, of course, the things like the sex drive, the energy, exercise endurance, all these things, protecting against heart disease. For women, this is life-changing. It changes your quality of life. One of the big ones is, of course, the vaginal dryness, and then restoring some real activity back into the vagina and taking away the discomfort, the dryness, and everything else that entails. The big thing for me is the memory and concentration. So what I see is a lot of women that replenish any of the estrogens that are needed, and we only focus on the really safe ones, is their memory comes back, they are able to focus more, they perform better at work. These are all very, very helpful. So this is a list. You've got the osteoporosis that it helps. You've got the night sweats, the hot flashes, and the muscle issue. So muscle for me is one of the biggest ones because we need to increase our muscle mass, not decrease it, or at least keep it stable. If we don't, then we are liable to have falls, break hips, and that's never a good idea. Right. A lot of people say, well, what's the difference between bioidentical and synthetic? And by the way, where they also talk about body identical. So normally if you see a purely medical doctor, they will recommend a tablet. Now, the problem with tablets is that the synthetic tablet has to be metabolized through the liver. And that is never a good idea because it creates all kinds of side effects. And the chemicals in there will also not work as well as the natural hormone. They will in fact cause more damage. Often I hear patients say, I went to the doctor and I just got the standard hormone replacement tablets. And then sometimes they don't even bother to do a blood test. They just give them out. And therefore, adverse reactions, I've seen them all. So I've seen people put on enormous amounts of weight, get extremely depressed, feel extremely inflated and bloated, have all kinds of other medical problems. So really we want to stay on the bioidentical side. It offers a natural and gradual approach. Even if it's natural, I do not agree with starting at the highest dose. We start at the lowest dose and we only take what is necessary. We never start at a high dose and then take it down. That's not the way to do it either, because even natural hormones, you don't want to give too many. So these are the kinds of things that are important to consider. Okay. Let's talk a bit now about peptides. So peptides, again, as we said before, they are signalers. They are signaling molecules. And the greatest thing is that they have a wide range of different types of health benefits. They are actually very versatile. And they are becoming, as we said before, the natural medicine of the future. If we go to the next slide, I'm going to show you a little bit more about how they work. So we have 4 categories of peptides. We have what we call the growth hormone peptides. And this helps with things like muscle growth, fat loss, recovery is faster. Then we have skin health. The best one there is always considered as things like copper peptides, GHK, very, very popular. There are a few others as well that really help as well. Even NAD plus helps. Then we have the immune modulating ones. Those are ones like the thymosin alpha and other ones that also help. And then you have the weight management. So weight management, there are many. Some are actually the ones that are commercially available now, like semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide, but you have others like MOTS-c and ones that are not directly as over strong as these peptides that can gently help you to lose the weight. So can we get peptides? Somebody's asking a question. Can we get peptides? I can't see the whole question. Can someone read it out
Yeah.
to me?
Yep. Can we get peptides treatment in Denmark?
I believe that it's not easy because Denmark is one of many European countries that has difficulty even understanding, recognizing, or regulating these peptides. But fortunately, the safest way to get peptides is through an EU licensed pharmacy. They guarantee the purity of the peptides. You can go to a lot of websites and buy stuff over the counter, no prescription necessary, but you're not sure of the quality. And there's no guaranteed purity. Some might offer some third-party studies, but you have to be very careful. So we only work with a pharmaceutical company that is licensed to produce the peptides, and you can order it through our system, which then means that we write a prescription, a proper prescription, and that prescription is included in the box that is then sent to your patient in Denmark. So that is possible to do because it includes the prescription. and it's done through a pharmaceutical company. But be very careful about using it in other ways. There you might encounter problems, both problems with the quality and the problems with it being you being able to receive it. Okay, so peptides work over a period of time. The period of time is that initially you'll see some benefits, which are great. So whether it's skin, mental clarity, sleep, but then as you progress with the peptides, you then start to see changes in body composition, libido, recovery from exercise, and eventually you get to improving muscle strength, which takes a bit of time. You've got to do other things like you do have to weight train. The immune function is improved and hormonal balance is improved. So it's not something that you take once and then the next day you think, well, now I'm going to be fine. It's something that it should be prescribed by a doctor or by a practitioner that fully understands peptides and done in a very safe way. Also, not the highest dose. Go with a conservative dose, and you build up slowly, and it's all done via a pharmaceutical grade company. So here's just a nice little diagram which shows us all the different possibilities. What I really like is that it has enormous anti-inflammatory capabilities. Now, there's one particular peptide you probably have heard of called BPC-157. This has worked miracles, both as an injectable, as a capsule, and now it comes as drops as well. Some fantastic results for people that have had surgeries and have never felt able to recover. There's some excellent qualities there. Also another one called TB500, which we'll look at. We find the sleep is the big one. So many of us suffer with sleep. I myself is an area that I find difficult. And that also, what happens with that is you start to take the 2 or 3 different ones which regulate things like GABA. So once you regulate GABA, then your sleep improves. Also, recovery and repair. It's just the TB500 is just fantastic for that. You also can promote growth hormone release. So rather than take growth hormone, which can be quite dangerous, you can use the peptide to promote your own growth hormone release. The weight loss side is very, very interesting if you microdose it. And of course, the sexual function, there's specific peptides for that. There was one question I saw, I think it was saying can peptides help joints? Yes, definitely, because joints become inflamed. So anything anti-inflammatory will help the joints as well. Right, this is just a little diagram of if you're taking an injectable, this is what it looks like. Now, when you have this kind of injectable, you have to self-inject into subcutaneously. So that's just into the underneath fold of the skin. It's quite easy to do very safely, and there's a big description on how to do it. So that's all offered by the actual pharmaceutical labs. They instruct on that, and it's all done.
And there is a question, do you take peptides every day or what do you do?
Very good question. Now, I prefer a once a week dosage. However, sometimes with things like BPC-157 or perhaps something like Selank, I would recommend more often. It's very, very specific for the person. So again, that's why to order it online and just follow some kind of random advice is never a good idea. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Great. Okay, here again, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the skin. The skin has become a very, very interesting one because so many of us have problems with aging skin. And there's been a lot of research done into GHK peptide, which is copper peptide. And now we see that copper peptide is becoming not only in the creams, we have peptides in skin products for years. But if you use the copper peptides to actually infiltrate the entire body, it's extremely helpful as well. So you can actually use a subcutaneous one, and it has amazing effects on the skin as well. Heals the skin. I have several patients with skin cancer that are using it and have seen a vast improvements. Right, these are some of the peptides. Now, as you can see, there's a very long list here, and I've mentioned some of them already, the different BPC 157s. They are there. The AOD is an anti-obesity peptide. That's a very interesting one. It's being developed further for helping with metabolism. Then you've got the CJC 1295, very lovely anti-aging, and it has a lot of additional benefits as well. The other ones I'll pick out, we see the GHK there, which is very, then you've got the human growth hormone itself. That has to be given in very, very carefully. Ipamorelin as an anti-aging, general anti-aging, also for the gut, I find to be very effective. Then you have melanotan, which is actually to help the skin to develop some more color. And then you have MOTS-c, which is all over the internet at the moment. MOTS-c is a metabolic peptide, which is extremely helpful for burning fat, increasing muscle, and it's being used by a lot of doctors recommended at the moment in the US. We have oxytocin, which is the happy hormone. It's kind of a peptide and a hormone as well, very helpful for mood problems. And then we have PT141, which is a libido peptide. Selank is very much for anxiety and stress-related issues. Then we have the semaglutide, which we know so well, which is the Ozempic, but this is in microdoses. Then you have Semax, which is the cognition one, Sermorelin, which is also a wonderful anti-aging peptides. Then you have the thymoxines. These are for the immune system, excellent, together with another one which is here. Oh, it's not on this list. There's something called DIC, which is very, very good. And then, can we go back a minute? Then we have the thymosin beta. I can tell you about it now anyway. The TB500 it's called, which is very, very popular to be used with BPC 157. So
Now you go.
So it's really peptides. There are many to choose and many different formulas and protocols, but it needs a specialist to be done properly. But once it's done properly, it's revolutionary. And it's safe because, you know, these are just groups of amino acids. As long as they are produced in a lab, in a pharmaceutical lab with guaranteed purity, you're in good shape. Now, it is true that the regulation, nowhere is the regulation very clear because there's such a new natural medicine. But there are compounding pharmacies that are licensed to produce what they call off-label medicines. So those are fine. And they will accept a prescription. So then you're in a very safe area to work with. So now we have the men's hormones. Now, we do have, of course, a whole selection of testosterone, but there are other men's hormones that are very, very helpful. They put the NMN here, but NMN is actually a precursor to NAD plus and NADH. But all these others, DHT is very popular relating to hair issues. DHEA is also producing capsules. That's a very important master hormone. And then you've got other capsules that are improving hormones in different ways, but they're highly specialized. The testosterone is ideal in the cream. Some men prefer to take the injection. The injection is more a situation where you're injecting a lot at one time, so the risk is higher. The cream it passes transdermally and then it's much safer, but different. You cannot say which one is going to be best, and the percentages are determined by the Dutch test results. And also the male ability to support the testosterone. So start slowly again, build up. I don't believe in giving 20% immediately. That's crazy. So a lot of really interesting aspects of men's hormone replacement therapy is very important. And then we move on to the ladies. So here we have these 6 main ones. We have, of course, DHEA for ladies. These are all very low percentages because women don't need more than this. You have progesterone. Now, progesterone we do also have in higher percentages because sometimes that is very necessary. Then we have estriol 2%, which is my favorite because it's the safest estrogen and I prescribe it most of the time. We have estradiol, which is much more active, much more strong, and it can produce side effects. I'm very, very cautious about estradiol, only used in certain circumstances. I would say 90% of the time we're using estriol and we're getting the results that we want. Sometimes we do a triest, so that's all three. And then females need testosterone. So a lot of us have a depletion that's very serious. But again, 1% for ladies is absolutely fine. But again, I wouldn't recommend going online and ordering this from a lab that's not a pharmaceutical lab because you're not sure if the exact percentages are right. Sometimes they're higher, sometimes they're lower, and what else they put in the cream. So you have to be very careful if you're just ordering online with this. It has to be a pharmaceutically guaranteed product.
Yeah, and often you do something, but you don't feel that it make a difference. And that's just waste of time. But a lot of clients is experiencing that because you can get progesterone in many, many ways and also creams and everything. So yeah, that's very important.
I'm glad you mentioned that because sometimes that I see the doctors give something called progestin or progestin there, and it's some kind of a synthetic gel that's not even the real bioidentical progesterone. And so it can help a little bit, but it's probably 10 or 20% of what the real progesterone can do. And it's synthetic, so there are side effects. So you have to be quite careful with the progesterone gels. Absolutely. That's a very good point.
And another thing with you and me is also that this is symptoms treatment. So we are interested in doing this and helping the clients to get to the 100%. But to get to that, we also need to know the roof. What is it going on? Is it the inflammation, or is it the gut, or is it the liver, or what is it? So we are using it. We are working with that, but we need to look beneath. We need to look on the root and going a little bit deeper. But that too, to get the functional medicine or the root cause and treating that together with the hormone you are not producing as you should, then we have the whole package.
Yeah, I'm so happy you said that because it's 100% true. You have to treat you have to treat scientifically and holistically. So that's when it really works. And holistic means that you have to go to root cause first before the treatment. So I personally prefer to do all three tests, the gut test, the Dutch test, and the DNA test before I start treating. And another one of my colleagues, Karen, who I work with, we had this experience working together with some patients that we could see problems in the hormone test, but we only got to understand what the problem was when we did the DNA test. So it's vital to look really, really well at all the areas, not just the one area. Okay, there's a free book if you want to scan there. If for any reason the scan is not working, just send us a message and we will forward the book to you. So it's just a little introduction book to my Ageless Metabolic Cure, which was very fortunately a bestseller on Amazon for 6 months. So you're welcome to look at the introduction for that. Right, a little bit more about myself for contact details. My office is in Gibraltar. I practice from Gibraltar, but then I work all over the world. Advanced Bio Group has diagnostics, we have consulting, we have natural medicines, and we have education. And it's actually just is such a pleasure to be completely in line and connected to Chloe's business as well, because we are now working together. So you can go through Chloe when you want to know more about how this could work. She understands very well all the different areas, and we're working together as a team to support you.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the new thing, right? Or maybe it's a goal I have, the sisterhood. How can we help and support and work together more? We are much stronger when we are together than alone. And a lot of practitioners out there are alone in the clinic and using their own mind and treating people. But if we cooperate together, then we can just do it much better. So that's I'm very, very grateful for.